that character, the list, never comes back again, it's still not going to make it any less popular.
Yeah.
What's going to make the list less popular is driving it into the ground after it's been done too many times. So,
agreed.
Time to think of some new stuff.
When we talk about your legacy, have you thought about who you want to induct you into the WWE Hall of Fame when that day comes?
No, it's funny, man, because I find all that sort of stuff kind of embarrassing, and not in a bad way, but it just feels weird to me. And like I said, if I ever get asked, it's a huge honor, and I appreciate the pomp and circumstance and all that. But it just would feel weird to go up there and have everybody tell you how great you are. It's like,
someone can do it in the back seat of a limo like this, yeah.
I know how great I am, right? I always liked, the Sex Pistols, where they sent in a letter and refused to be there, or Axl Rose, who refused to show up, and I even said, no one's allowed to say my name. So that might be good, just to not even bother showing up at all, and just going, and not only that, but you are forbidden to say the name Chris Jericho.
Bruh. He's always making music references, man. That shit can be a little annoying, but Chris Jericho is for sure a Hall of Famer. He's gonna go in, whether he wants to or not. He's gonna go in. Now, who should induct him? You can throw in several names of guys who could induct him. I think the most common name, especially amongst today's fans, would be Kevin Owens. Like, if we want to go by recent history, recent events, they would want Kevin Owens to induct him. You can make the case that Triple H should induct him. You can make the case that Shawn can induct him. Hell, you could say Big Show can induct him just for the Jericho run. That Jericho run was really good. It just sucks that they ended it prematurely. You can make the case that Edge could induct him. But you know who I think is going to actually induct him? Stephanie McMahon. It works. Just think about it. What was one of the first things that made Jericho insanely over, besides his debut, of course? But what was the first big storylines, angles that made him over? Like, insanely, incredibly over during the Attitude Era? In his first WWE run. His feud with Stephanie McMahon. Where he called him a dirty trash bag out. Where he called her a dirty trash bag out. I said him. I mean, not bark up that tree. But anyway, that's what made him. That's what really made him insanely popular with the WWE fans. So her name is a good case for who should induct him. Yeah. Either one of the aforementioned names that I mentioned could possibly induct him. To me, it doesn't matter, but it'd be an interesting thing.
But if you're going to go through it, I mean, there's a couple guys here and there, but I think the best one would be somebody like a Kevin Owens, maybe.
That was the first name I threw out.
Who started out as a fan of Chris Jericho and then ended up, in the ring together. So I thought I would have been a good choice to induct Shawn Michaels, for example, but I wasn't in the company at the time.
Okay, you wanted to induct Shawn. Okay. Yeah, that would have been cool if he inducted Shawn. But it made more sense for Triple H to do it.
So, I think that might be kind of interesting. Either that or just something really cool like Schwarzenegger or William Shatner, or like the people that get like Stallone. Have someone like that show up to induct me.
What do you think of what Becky Lynch is doing right now in WWE? And you guys kind of got into a little bit on Twitter, too.
Well, not really. I mean, I made a comment, and then she talks a lot on Twitter, and then I made a compliment to the women's division, and then she's doing her thing, but then she quickly stopped after a few burials from me. But
dude, she destroyed your ass on Twitter, man. She destroyed you on Twitter. You don't believe me? Go on Twitter and look up those tweets. I'm pretty sure you can still find them. Neither one has deleted any of them. She destroyed you, man. And I actually listened to Fozzy, and she made me not want to listen to Fozzy anymore. Like, it was that crazy.
You know, I mean, that she's doing a great job, and she's using social media so well, and people are eating it up with a spoon. And to me, you know, the fact that this is going to be a WrestleMania when, you know, probably at some point, probably this year, the women's match will be the main event.
No, the women's match will main event. A women's match will main event WrestleMania this year. I don't doubt that for a second now. They've been building up to it for too long to just not do it. Like, if they not do it and wait till next year, it'll be pretty disappointing. And WWE will have already started off the new year with a letdown, with an underwhelming result. They've been building up too much for too long to not have the women main event this year. Now, the big question is, who will be in that main event slot? Because they could go multiple ways with it. They could do solely Becky versus Ronda. They could do Charlotte versus Ronda, the rematch. Or they could do the triple threat, which to me makes the most sense, even though CM Punk would not be a happy camper about that. Or they could do horsewomen versus horsewomen, even though that's the least likely for me, in my opinion, because Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir literally just made their debut in NXT a few weeks back. So they would be nowhere near ready. You know, and even if they went and did that match, they would have to have Ronda and Shayna, you know, wrestle the majority of that match. And Marina Shafir and Jessamyn Duke would probably get a combined total of 2 to 3 minutes in the ring. And that wouldn't do it any justice. That's not the type of match that we want to see, or I would want to see. So that's the least likely out of all of the scenarios that I just laid out. But that could also be done as well. But any of those options would work for me and would make sense. I would be surprised if Bayley or Sasha were to somehow get squeezed into the main event. That would surprise me, actually. Especially from Bayley's aspect, because they've been booking her very poorly. You know, they've managed to do a little bit better with her teaming up with Sasha, but I don't know how much better it's been.
I mean, just think about that. Like, think about that in comparison to 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. So I think they've done a great job, all the women. But
the women have come a long way, no doubt.
This great, you know, collection of Asuka and Ronda and Becky and Charlotte. You know, the four of them kind of warring back and forth, with Becky kind of being the maverick of all of them. It's great for wrestling, man. It really is. You know, you see ratings and you see attendances and stuff like that, and it might continue to take a while for the mainstream to really accept it. You know, that a women's match can be the main event of WrestleMania. There might be a lot of guys.
Honestly, I feel like the mainstream has already accepted just the idea of it, with the way they've been publicizing and just pushing the women in general, in terms of evolution, in terms of the Divas title turning into the women's title, you know, the first ever Money in the Bank match for the women, first ever women's Royal Rumble, all of that. And even the Hell in a Cell with Sasha and Charlotte back in 2016.
Is in Middle America, will go, come on, man, you know. Me, I think it's great, and I love. I think it's one of the best things that ever happened is when Nia Jax punched Becky in the face and smashed her eye or whatever it was.
Yeah, ironically and accidentally, it was one of the best things that ever happened to Becky, because it made her even more over.
That made her, like, you know, sometimes things happen that you never expect, like when Brett and Austin were in the sharpshooter and Austin was bleeding and passed out. That made him, and I bet you they thought it was probably a cool finish, but didn't really think that it would do that. I think the same thing happened with Becky when she got punched in the face, and at the end of the thing, she's bleeding, and it just looked like a badass character that girls and guys would wanna hang out with, and that's always the secret to any babyface. The girl wants to go on a date with you, and the guy wants to have a beer with you. And that's kind of the vibe that Becky has. You just want to hang out with this person and get to know her because she's such a badass. So I think that's a no-brainer. You know, they kind of stumbled into that, and now they have a huge new star, maybe the first breakout true women's star that can appeal to everybody.
Do you have a moment in your
Agreed.
career that was kind of like, that made you like that?
I don't know. It's weird because
I say the Stephanie McMahon feud. That's what made him the complete breakout star. At least for the WWE.
I mean, everyone points to you winning the Undisputed Championship.
yeah, but that really wasn't it. That was more of a token thing because I wasn't the top guy. You know, I was probably the fifth or sixth guy down the totem pole there, and even though I was the Undisputed Champion, I wasn't really pushed as the top guy. Maybe for me, I think the era that really broke through was the suit and tie Jericho.
Yeah.
You can make the argument. We could debate. You can make that argument, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't think I would completely agree with that, but I wouldn't disagree with it either. I think it all comes down to perspective and your opinion. But you can make the case for either one, the Stephanie McMahon feud or the suit and tie Jericho.
When I threw Sean to the Jeritron, that was a real defining moment. Then, like I said, it's hard to say. Like this Kevin Owens thing was a real, just happened, and it just skyrocketed. You never would expect that.
Well, the crazy thing is everything you do gets over. Everything you do.
Well, when you have confidence, then you're unstoppable. And that year, 2016, I was so confident that I was like, I'm gonna get over the click of a pen. Let me see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get over one word, it. Let me see if I can get over a word by just saying it over and over again. I just say quiet, 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 and people just anything I could think of. Let me see if I can make it work, and it did. So that's the sign of a true professional. And when you really get that, like Becky has right now, when you have that confidence, nobody can bring you down, no matter what happens. And that's
Agreed. Like I said in my previous videos, this is the most confident that I've ever seen Becky Lynch be. You can tell she relishes this role. She relishes this moment. This version of herself. This alteration. I wouldn't say this heel run because it's not a heel run. And it wasn't a heel turn. It was just a character alteration.
rare thing, but when you get it, that's when you go from being a star or a proverbial superstar to a megastar.
Sure. As we wrap this up here, last time I was chatting with you, you were texting with Roman Reigns after the interview. Have you talked to him since? How's he doing?
Yeah, I talk to him quite often. Seems to be doing pretty good from what I know. I don't know how much he wants to get out there as far as what he's doing, but he's doing his treatment, and I think things are going really well. And I don't really know much about leukemia. I don't know what the end game is as far as when you're, quote unquote cured, when it goes into remission, when you can do physical matches or travel or whatever it is. But we talked to him quite a bit. I got a group text with him in it, and I text him on the side quite a bit, and he always seems to be doing pretty well and in good spirits. And he's a great guy, and I know over the years that a lot of people have bagged on him, but he's the wrong guy to bag on because he is a sweet guy.
A lot of people bagged on him unnecessarily. It was all unnecessarily. It was extremely unnecessarily. Like people, I've heard people call him a cancer to wrestling, and it's like, come on now. You can't be that moronic and idiotic and completely biased. Like, you're not a real wrestling fan if you say some shit like that. Because, number one, there's no such thing as a cancer to the wrestling business. Not even Vince Russo was a cancer to the wrestling business. Vince Russo just needed to be micromanaged, that's all. He just needed to be micromanaged. And when he was micromanaged, Vince Russo was one of the most creative motherfucking geniuses out there. But There's no such thing as a cancer in the wrestling business. No one has ever been a cancer in the wrestling business. So to say that you're not a real fan, I'm sorry. Like you're not a real fan, and you need to get out of that shell. That shell of being completely unfair, leading with your emotions, and not having that three-dimensional thinking that a wrestling fan should have in order to be fair, unbiased, and judge things completely from an intellectual point of view. We need to start having better conversations when we're talking about wrestling. We need to be more fair. We can still be opinionated, but we need to be more fair.
Funny, works hard, big heart. So, we love him, and I think it's just a matter of time before he comes back. But more importantly, that he stays healthy for his family, for sure.
Yeah. So how many sources of income do you have in 2019? It's wrestling, it's Fozzy, you get the cruise, merchandise. How many things is it?
Podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's just building your brand.
I love it.
And never having to worry about being stuck in a box. Like I said, doing what you want to do and keeping things exciting and creatively stimulating. And if I can continue to do that, then there'll be streams of income coming in. And that's the way it should be, because you mentioned before, being a young 48 or whatever it is. When you look at
or having a midlife crisis, you choose. I'm kidding.
a pond that's just a still batch of water, it's dead, and everything inside it is dead. When the water is moving, that's when it's alive. You got to keep moving to stay excited and stay happy and to stay motivated. So if that adds revenue streams, then that's great. But more importantly, because I don't do anything for money, I do it because it's exciting. And that's with AEW. Yes, the money's great. That's awesome. But if it was just here, sign on the dotted line.
Which is why you signed. Because you literally said in the beginning of the video that you've made more money not working in the WWE over the last couple of years than you did working for the WWE. So money is the big topic. Let's not pretend that it's not. Money is that's the big talk. And it's okay, Chris, because you should be making as much money as you can, because you are on the end. You're on the downside of your career. No disrespect, but you are. You're on the downside of your career. You're at the tail end, and you deserve to be making as much money as you can before you leave. And that's real.
The line and be miserable. I would never do that. It's exciting. It's scary. I've never been part of a new company before. I mean, if this works, it's because of us. If it doesn't work, well, it's not from a lack of trying. But I really think, like I said, the timing of this, everything is very much happenstance and very much a sign of fate, So it's really nervously exciting, but it's also very, like I said, it gives me energy, and it's electric, and it's going to be a real interesting, fun year, I have to say.
Well, we hung out with you last time on a tour bus. Today in the back seat of a car. Yes. Where are we going to be next?
I don't know. I'll be in a garbage truck maybe or something like that. In the actual garbage part. Right?
Awesome, yeah.
See what happens there? I've never been inside a garbage truck. That'll be it next time. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, man.
Inside of a garbage truck. I would like to see that. But anyway, that's it on the aftermath of Chris Jericho signing with All Elite Wrestling. This was a pretty good interview. Chris Jericho is an all-time great. I just hope he retires within the next year or so. But it'll be interesting to see how this All Elite Wrestling thing goes down. And I'll be on the lookout myself. I will try to view and get as much news and read up on it as much as I can. So we'll see what happens. 2019 is going to be a pretty good year for wrestling. I'm very confident. Even if it's not good for the WWE, it'll be good for wrestling in general. So I'm out.